No, 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 Dende.
That's a terrible introduction.
Dende.
No. Not using it.
No.
Not using it. Blatantly
No.
ripping off someone else.
No.
Kill yourself.
B7, we the plug, nigga. First off, don't bro me if you don't know. Don't do it. Cause I can read through you niggas. Adobe. I'm getting big faces. Ginobili. You getting little faces. Emojis.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy Colin from Cab Creations.
And Brandon
From...
Cab Creations.
And we are here today with a new series. Again, because new series are fun.
New series.
And this is what we like to call Tuesday's topic. Would you like to tell them what Tuesday's topic is?
Sequels.
It is.
Sequels.
And what we do here on Tuesday's topic is we just talk to you guys about a certain subject, and we give our opinion about it, and we just talk about how to either improve or what would be realistic for the certain subject that's at hand. So that's what we are doing here today. And if you guys don't want to watch it, we completely understand. Maybe next Tuesday's topic will interest you, but let's get right into sequels. Now, sequels, this year, we were looking at the sequels this year, and we noticed something very interesting about the sequels. And what's that?
They are either very bad, like copycat sequels, or
Zoolander 2, Ride Along 2, Alice Through the Looking Glass,
or genuinely very good.
Kung Fu Panda 3, Barbershop The Next Cut,
Civil
War, and The Conjuring 2, which comes out this week in theaters.
Now, we thought this year was peculiarly strange, and we just kind of thought about movies in general and sequels.
Oh, by the way, when we're talking about sequels, we are talking about movies that are in direct chain with each other. We're not talking about franchises. Brandon brought this up with like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There have been multiple Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles franchises. So like the first 3 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 2 movies after that were the sequel. For this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series, it's the first TMNT and then 2 Into the Shadows. That is what we consider the sequel.
Yeah.
So like, yeah.
Yes.
It's kind of hard. Like, we don't consider... It's confusing. We'll get into it later. Anyways.
So, yeah, just genuinely, we kind of figured out that movie sequels have 2 types of sequels.
There's 2 purposes, right? There's 2 purposes to why people are making sequels.
To sell out, or to actually continue the story. Now, selling out is the obvious option. That's what a lot of movies do. I mean, and it makes sort of sense. And sometimes a movie can do both. Sometimes it needs more money and to follow up with the sequel because a lot of people want it.
And it kind of has to sell out in order to be able to make the project that you want to.
And to a producer, it only makes sense for you to make another movie if your first movie did so well.
But also, there are 2 within the sellout. There are 2 within the sellout region. There's what the first sellout is. You just made a movie that came out within the last 5 years. People love it. Or people love it. It doesn't matter what the critics thought. People loved it, and then they're riding that wave of success over to their next movie. And then there's like the nostalgia factor ones, like there's talks of a Back to the Future sequel still going on. People, Emilio Estevez, and when he was alive, the guy who did Breakfast Club, what's his name? Because I forgot. John Hughes. They were talking about making a sequel to The Breakfast Club. So when something is so popular that they can ride the wave from a movie that's like way back into a movie for our generation.
And here's the thing, another type of sellout movie, and we're going to loosely use this term, sellout.
Yeah.
Is just movies that genuinely want more money. Just no reason for it to continue whatsoever, other than the fact that it wants more money.
A very good example of that is the Paranormal Activity series. Those movies are so cheap to make that they can just continue making them, and it's a guaranteed profit. Whether people like them or not, people will go to a very stupid horror movie to get their cheap thrills in. Go watch Cheap Thrills.
Would you consider Godfather the Part 3 to be a sequel?
You know what? That's a really hard one, because even though it was worse than it, they had a story to tell. The Godfather was so good, and I feel like they tried to put something out in Godfather Part 3, but it just did not end up well whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I also think that the first two Godfather films are actually, I know this is going against some of the things that I'm going to say later in the video, but those first two movies are amazing enough that they kind of overshadow the third one, and it's okay that it wasn't really the best movie ever.
And here's the thing with sequels. They could be good or bad. Sometimes they're dignified, other times they just aren't necessary. And it really depends on the franchise. It really is a gamble with sequels, just in general. What we're trying to make is just sense of it.
So we talked a little bit about the bad. Let's give a little bit about the good. A very good example of a good sequel that's being made currently is The Incredibles 2. As when The Incredibles came out, that is there are a decent amount of people that say that that is Pixar's best film ever. The Incredibles? Yeah, that's really well received. And fans, that came out in, I think, 2004, 2005. It's something like that. And then the fans begged for that. They begged for a sequel for so long. And they actually had, they had a setup for a sequel in the first movie. And that is because they had more story to tell. Like, that story with the family was not finished. They had content to go over. While, as in something like A Ride Along 2, there was places to go, but the way that they took it was very... They could have taken it a pretty interesting way. I felt like if they had went maybe a little bit more darker, like it's a little more into the future, he's already a cop, and his wife had divorced him or something like that. Like they'd already gotten married, really short marriage, divorce. I feel like it could have, but they just were like, hey, let's make Ride Along, but the same thing for the second one.
Okay. What I was thinking about the other day was what's the difference between shameless and dignified or just flat out
Shameful.
No, shameful or
Shameless. There's
shameless.
no shame.
Yeah,
there is
exactly.
shame.
Exactly.
It's full of shame.
Yeah, like a lot like the Marvel movies when those first got set up. Like when the first Hulk movie got set up with Iron Man, and then Iron Man got set up with Captain America and the Avengers and all that. Was that shameless or was that shameful? Because a lot of movies at the end will try and put things at the end of their movies to say, hey, there's going to be another one.
Credit scenes, yeah.
But with the Marvel's Avenger, they kind of like connected and just made one big universe out of it. So where do we draw the line in between shameless or shameful?
See, the thing is that Marvel did it so well. And in fact, in my opinion, hear me out, I think they did it too well.
Too well?
I feel like... So in the early... We had Spider-Man, right?
Right.
Spider-Man, in my opinion, was the first good superhero film franchise. Would you...
Wait, the Amazing Spider-Man?
No, Spider-Man, not the Amazing Spider-Man.
Tobey Maguire?
Yes.
Okay.
Number 1 was a good movie.
Okay,
Number 2 was arguably one of the best superhero movies of all time.
Agreed.
I can overlook 3. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. But, it's better than Amazing Spider-Man 1 or Amazing Spider-Man 2, in my opinion. Okay. But at that time, there wasn't many good superhero movies coming out.
True.
I feel like the superhero world escalated too quickly. I feel like we went from having such bad movies to such good movies in such a short period of time.
Right.
That now we all feel oversaturated. I feel like if we would have gone at a more stable incline, that we would appreciate our movies more. And that it wouldn't seem like this is getting to be too much. So I feel, in a way, like everyone, I know Suicide Squad has some hope, but everyone's completely disregarding DC at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
After Batman vs. Superman, they are just tossing him to the side. And if you think about it, if we had... In my opinion, if we had increased at the rate that DC is, they're gradually getting their stuff together.
I feel like in the long run, Marvel has always been known for their lightheartedness and whatnot, but I feel like the DC cinematic universe could be a lot darker than Marvel. But that's getting off topic.
Yeah, I just went on a rant. But anyways, I think the reason that they work and they're not sellouts is because they did it so well.
Right.
I will admit that I felt a little bit of a sellout vibe when they announced their latest phase, because they put so many films in there, and honestly, in my opinion, tell me if I'm right or wrong. Does anyone really want to see Thor, the new Thor Ragnarok?
I wasn't too fond of the Thor movie.
I was never fond of the Thor.
The first Thor, I like to see. The second Thor, not too.
I thought it was terrible in my opinion, but hey, that's just.
Did they? They made a third.
Nope, this is the third.
Okay. Yeah.
See, because my thing is, I feel like they're just like people love the character of Thor. We don't have to make a good movie because people are. I feel like Marvel is getting to that stage where they don't. They're like, we don't have to make a good movie because we are already as established.
Honestly, I feel like people want to see more of a Guardians of the Galaxy,
and they're getting it too in 2017. So,
of course. But no, yeah, Thor wasn't like a huge character. The first movie was good. It was pretty interesting.
See, I'm so mixed about Marvel because they knew when to stop Iron Man. They made 2 bad Iron Man movies and they cut it. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. And I understand why they are making a new Thor movie because he wasn't included in Civil War. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But let's get off the superhero topic because I kind of feel like that's a horse that's just been beaten to death completely.
True. But when it comes to certain other sequels, like completely unnecessary sequels that maybe be related from a true story, have you seen any true story sequels?
True story sequels. I
I
don't remember because true stories is generally they tell the story.
They tell the story,
and then it's over. Like the Rookie. I know that's a really very obscure reference. Not many people.
The Fighter.
Yeah, these are movies that they tell the story and then they have no reason to continue. Mm-hmm. A perfect example of a sellout sequel: Alice in Wonderland, Alice Through the Looking Glass. Alice in Wonderland, what did you think about that movie? Because everyone is shitting on the Alice in Wonderland series right now.
I wanted it to be good. I wanted to see a nonsensical story with just crazy
Did you
characters.
love Alice in Wonderland?
Yeah, I love Alice in Wonderland. I love the original tales. I love everything about it, but especially the characters and the journey that Alice goes through, and I was really hoping that's what we were going to get, but we got a really linear story.
But did you hate it?
Not necessarily.
See, the thing is, I didn't hate it. Everyone talks about how it's so garbage.
Okay, let me say this. The reason why I didn't like it is because of its story, not because of its characters. It still kept some of its characters to the core. Like, the Queen was still the same.
I liked Helena Bonham Carter.
She was good. She was good. Johnny Depp was a good Mad Hatter, even though he still had.
Even though he's Johnny, he brought his Johnny Depp isms to it.
The Caterpillar was the same. The Tweedledums were the same. It did leave some characters out, which had me pondering. The Rabbit.
I was kind of confused about the Cheshire Cat.
Yeah, it didn't really seem.
Anyways, but what I'm saying is that movie made, as people know, over $1 billion.
Right.
So they were like, let's make a second one. Not because there was any need to continue that series. They already made an Alice in Wonderland. They were like, let's just make another one for the money.
Right.
That was literally all of their thought process.
But yeah.
But then again,
maybe that's because people were hoping for a second chance. That was people.
But see, the thing about film corporations is they know that. They know that if there's a movie that's mediocre, they can capitalize off of that so much because people will be like, oh, you know what? Sometimes sequels are better than originals. Example, Shrek 2.
Yep.
Sometimes, so maybe it'll get better. But so that basically gives them an out to make a very inferior movie, but still get the same amount of money for it.
Sure.
Even more sometimes. And honestly, it depends sometimes on how quick the word spreads.
Right.
Like, there's been many examples where a highly anticipated movie comes out that weekend, and word spreads like wildfire around the community, and people just don't go to see it, and it just drops drastically from first week to second week. Let's talk about animated sequels.
We kind of came to the conclusion that animated sequels might possibly be better than the live actions, mainly due to the fact that it's just generally more stories spread, but...
Yeah. For example, of course, Pixar knows how to do this well. They know how to do it well. Actually, you know what? I won't say that. Toy Story 2, Toy Story 3 are classics. Cars 2 is shit. Honestly, Monster University was mediocre.
I liked it.
I thought it was mediocre, but you liked it. It's a very debatable. It's in that. Can we
that.
at least say it's in that range from like it's good to it's mediocre. It's in that range. Honestly, Finding Dory, coming out in a week or so, that's going to determine this for me. I'm going to determine whether, because if you think about it, it's kind of on the board. Like they had one really successful franchise in Toy Story, and then one not so successful franchise in Cars, and then
this is really
for sequels. I mean,
this is really interesting because how different are animated movies from live action? I mean, they both carry characters. They both carry story. They both. The only difference is the difference that people distinguish them. Like, usually when people think of animated movies, you guys think of, oh, it's just for kids. It's not anything too big.
I also think that when people think of anime movies, they think more of the story as opposed to the characters. So if you make an animated movie with a good story, and then you want to see that story continued, like, for example, why were the Lethal Weapon movies made? Like Lethal Weapon 2.
Because of the characters.
Because of Murtaugh and Riggs. You want to see more of Murtaugh and Riggs and stuff like that. But if you think about Finding Nemo, everybody wanted to see what happened to them after they got home. Monsters, Inc., everybody wanted to see what happened to Sully and Mike after they got rid of the kid. Or in this case, before they even went to the monster place. There are so many, like, shit. The Karate Kid. Karate Kid, one of the best, I guess you could call it a sports movie, right?
Of course.
One of the best sports movies of all time.
Yeah.
You wanted to see what happened to Ralph Macchio. Were the rest of the movie good? They're okay. Than one with
But what about? Then what could you say for the Shrek movies?
The Shrek movies, again, you want to see what happens when Shrek gets home. Here's the thing: I didn't view. And when I originally heard Shrek 2 was coming out, which was like 2006 or 2007, I didn't think that it needed to come out. I was like, I'm satisfied. This is a whole story, you know what I mean? He got his swamp back, he married the princess. I wasn't as interested in seeing what happened to them after they got home. But the thing is, you can expand upon that. That is something you can expand upon.
Right.
And I think Shrek 2 is brilliant.
Right.
I feel like and the thing is, they didn't rehash the whole thing. They went in a completely new, different direction.
Right.
They had Prince Charming, who's a great character, the fairy godmother, who was fantastic, and they made them humans. I don't remember that being really done that well until Shrek 2. So they made it well. They did something that worked, as opposed to, you know what? I know this is a spin-off, but it's not a sequel. It's more of a prequel, but Minions.
That's characters and moving them into a different story.
Yeah, but that's a bad example. I don't know why I went there. So let's think about more things. Perfect example, the Rocky franchise. Why do you want to see more of the Rocky franchise? Because you want to see more of Rocky.
You want to see him succeed.
Why do you want to see more of the Despicable Me franchise? Because you want to see what happens to Gru after he's with his family life and all that stuff. That's why Despicable Me 2 was made. Also, I guess if you have a low IQ or you're under the age of 5, you want to see more of the Minions, but that's completely besides the point.
Wow, just way to insult your audience.
Dude, if we... Dear 5-year-olds that watch this video, if you can comprehend what I'm saying, I'm very sorry. Please forgive me. That sounded so rapey.
Stop.
I can't get off screen. So.
Sequels.
But yeah, like for the Rocky, you wanted to see... I thought you thought I was going to hit me, you like moved away. The Rocky sequels are goodish.
What about the Indiana Jones?
Oh, exactly. Why did they make more Indiana Jones, do you think?
Because people love Indiana Jones.
Exactly. That's why they're so much more successful.
What about Madagascar?
Shit.
Movies are not limited to animation. Everything is See,
Okay, Madagascar 2, but still, they took that in a different direction. Was it a good movie? No, but they took that in a different direction. They didn't just rehash the same thing. They took them to Africa. They met their families. The plot could have been good. The acting, the performances were phoned in.
What about Madagascar 3?
I love Madagascar 3. I love Madagascar 3. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. And I didn't love it. I liked it. I thought it was a good movie.
Okay.
I appreciated it. I thought it was way better than Madagascar 2.
What about the Mad Max movies?
That's true. I kind of do. I guess the Mad Max movies are kind of an exception because you want to see more of that world. Here's why though. That environment is so good. You want, and Mel Gibson played such a strong character. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, I will give it that because you don't want to see more. But then again, you just do want to see more of Mad Max.
True.
But also, I feel like the environment was so compelling.
That's what I was about to say. I don't think people care as much about Mad Max because if you get down to it, Mad Max was kind of a bland character. He didn't say very much. He didn't do very much. He just kind of progressed the story forward.
But he was really charismatic.
Yeah, he was a little bit charismatic. But people cared more about the world around it. I mean, when you look at the new Mad Max Fury Road,
you can't understand what Tom Hardy's saying at all.
You can hardly hear him at all. And
it's the atmosphere.
It is the atmosphere.
Let's talk about comedy sequels and why they don't work.
Comedy sequels? Has there been any successful comedy sequels?
Neighbors 2.
Would you say 22 Jump Street? 21 Jump Street
It was successful. I didn't think it was better than the first one.
21 Jump Street was a successful movie. Don't get me wrong. It was such a... Everybody loved 21 Jump Street.
And it was so surprising that everyone loved 21 Jump Street. Like, we're going to remake this random TV show that was on, like, 30, 40 years ago.
Would you count that as a sequel?
22 Jump Street?
21 and 22.
Yeah, they're a series. 22 is the sequel to 21.
Yeah.
And 22, in my opinion, it wasn't good.
It was decent.
But it was average. And you know what? In my opinion, that is a success in the realm of comedy. Another series that I think is really successful, that not many people give mention to it, but I feel like it's still underrated somehow, Anchorman and Anchorman 2.
I like that.
I love the Anchorman series. Maybe that's just my personal bias, but I feel like... But also, if you think about it, for that, again, you don't want to see more of the story behind it. You want to see more of those characters. You want to see Brick Tamlin. You want to see Ron Burgundy. You want to see Champ Kind. You want to see the other guy that I can't remember.
When you get down to it, the sequels are basically the carrying on of all these characters that you've been grown to love in the originals, mind you, with some exceptions, because there are some new stories when it comes to certain sequels, but like I hate that I'm using this, but I have to. The Purge, Paranormal Activity movies, some Saw.
Most Saw.
Most Saw movies.
Most Saw. I like Saw 1.
I think of those as different novels.
But see, the thing is, the reason that they got more sequels is because they were cheap to make, and that there was guaranteed profit in those series.
It's an entire different story with entirely different characters. But
Facts.
then again, you have to question yourself of whether if a sequel is a change of characters, story, or environment. I think that's what makes it a sequel.
Yeah, we kind of narrowed it into those three categories.
So realistically, if you have any one of those kind of three changes, I think you have to make some change to the story, otherwise you're going to have the same exact...
And then it's shit.
And that's why we have shit sequels.
Because they're just literally... I thought that's what Neighbors 2 was going to do. I thought Neighbors 2 was just going to rehash the same jokes, but it's women.
Okay, so here's the things that you can change when it comes to a sequel. Or you have to change. Otherwise, it's not going to be a good movie. Story. Obviously.
Yes. We don't want to see the same movie, Hollywood. That's why the original movie exists. We don't want to see another version of the same movie.
Atmosphere. Or setting. If you have the same setting,
I feel like that one's on the fence.
It was.
I feel like it can work, but it also can't work.
Right. And this one is interesting for me. It doesn't have to be a thing, but it is very interesting when I go in to see a movie. Characters.
Oh, yeah.
If you have different characters in the same, well, not necessarily same story, but in the same, kind of title or franchise or whatever you're doing, it's an interesting thing.
Let's talk about in my opinion, the most classic fuck up of all time in a series, and that's The Hangover.
Oh yeah.
The Hangover, in my opinion,
I had the same characters.
it's the same characters,
Same story.
same story. They switch the environment, but they do the same thing with a kid.
Actually, I'm gonna call bullshit on that because it was the same environment.
Except in China, or whatever, Taiwan, wherever.
They called
Thailand.
it. Here's what it actually was. It looked different.
Yeah.
But it actually was not.
The actual physical environment. Here's the thing: the environment was different, but the atmosphere wasn't.
Exactly, and I think we should add that to our top 4.
Top 4 things to change in a sequel. I'm just joking. Sorry.
You need to have in a sequel, or that you could,
Or you
that
should-
are necessity for a sequel.
But are they bare?
Not necessarily. Look for the bare necessities. This song is copyrighted by.
Oh god! The video just cuts off. Anyways, we were talking about The Hangover, and we were talking about the 4 things that you need.
The atmosphere wasn't the same, but the setting was.
Yes.
Or no. The atmosphere was the same, but I don't know what I'm saying right now.
Okay, but can we talk about The Hangover 3 a little bit?
Yes.
The reason that I liked The Hangover 3, I thought it was a decent movie.
It changed something.
They changed the story.
They changed
First
the story.
of all.
And they changed the. Did they change the atmosphere? I never really saw it.
They definitely made it less comedy and more action in a way for the atmosphere.
Okay.
So it was changed. It wasn't changed much, mind you, but I did feel a little bit of a shift into a more serious tone. I don't know how to feel about action franchises because let's look at one that's very popular nowadays.
Born Legacy?
We can look at that. Okay.
No, what were you gonna
I
say?
was going to go with the Fast and Furious franchise.
Oh my gosh, okay. So, that's a whole nother story.
Now, let's
I feel like, personally, I just feel like some of them are just cash grabs.
let's look at that though. I feel everyone says that Fast 5 is the point where they started to elevate.
Really?
Yes, they usually think that the first 4 are just very, they're movies that exist that you can watch because cars are cool.
Right.
But they feel like Fast 5, and I think that's the one that's the bank heist movie.
Mm-hmm.
And they feel like it started to elevate there. And I've watched these movies.
I do remember Fast 5 being pretty good.
But I feel like they started to invest more in their characters, even if the dialogue was kind of shit. In my opinion,
Especially in Fast 7. That was sad and like cheesy at the same time.
hey, remember that Paul Walker died? Guys, Paul Walker died. Paul Walker is dead if you didn't get it from this movie.
Hashtag Paul Walker, rest in peace.
Okay, well, let's talk about a franchise of action movies that also is really good. The Terminator movies.
That, I wouldn't say really good.
Oh, I would. T2 is one of the best action spectacles of all time.
Yeah, but can you think of a movie other than T1 and T2 that were good?
That was my point that I was going to make.
Okay, make it.
Well, T1 and T2, you're... Oh, we're going to sit back, okay. T1 and T2, you're kind of just first starting to get to know the characters. And the thing is, the reason that earlier movies are so much better than later movies and franchises is because they're developing the characters. You're getting to know them, and so you feel more for them. But what directors and people seem to forget is that you can't just stop character development. and just assume that the audience is satisfied with this character.
Can you imagine how amazing the Terminator series would be if they actually just constantly kept on developing new characters?
And added new layers to like their whole persona and stuff like that. Yes. Can you imagine if Terminator Genesis was about Arnold and not fucking Jai Courtney?
Oh man, it would be just kind of like another familiar series that we come to know and love over the years as we've grown up. Yeah, I wish.
Oh, how have we not talked about Star Wars till now?
Star Wars was full of timeless classics.
First 3 movies. We're not talking about the other 3. Actually, that's perfect! Okay, so how about you start off with the first 3 and what made them so great, and I'll talk about the other 3.
Well, you gotta understand that this movie had a lot of effort put into it, and like had tons of people working on it. It wasn't just George Lucas writing the script, because if he did it, we would get the prequels all over again. But, but no, the reason why it made these so great is because we've like literally gone on a journey with this kid named Luke and just kind of watched him grow from a young man into a Jedi.
And even the other characters had layers. Han Solo had
layers.
so many layers. Princess Leia almost had incest with her brother. If you think about that, that's kind of disturbing a little bit. But the reason that we're so okay with it is just because of all of these things. Like freaking the characters, the Ewoks had layers. If you think about it, the fucking Ewoks had layers.
Oh my god! Like when
they were trying to defend their whole land. That's their motivation. It's not.
When one of them got shot down by one of the troops and just made that crying noise, I was like, heart hurts so much.
No, but you think about it, because a lot of the prequels, people did things because. Just because. Because movie. Because we need to move the storyline along. The reason, like, you accepted, a lot of people hate the Ewoks. I don't know why, but I guess because they're toys, I guess? Because they're, like, supposed to be toys. But the Ewoks had a purpose. Right. They were there to defend their homeland. Right. They weren't, like, stormtroopers. They were there to fight for people. And also, you could, like, I don't have a good argument for the
Stormtroopers were basically just...
I don't feel like the Stormtroopers were developed until, of course, the most recent movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Finn.
They were literally taken from their homes and used as warriors.
Yeah, you don't really know that? Do they talk about that?
They don't. They don't really talk about, like, influences. The Star Wars literally was what it was, a Star War. It didn't need to explain the background, and that was so great about it. And it didn't need to focus on the world either. I mean, part of it was in the atmosphere, not a lot like Mad Max, but mainly
a shit ton had the environment. What were you gonna say?
Or the environment or atmosphere. It wasn't a...
Well, I was gonna say the environment did a lot of it, because like at that time, had we really had that many amazing space operas?
Right.
But that's also just a founding thing. That's not.
But what I'm trying to say is, it wasn't focused mainly on like the background of the setting.
It's the character.
It's the characters.
Okay, we're gonna do a complete 180 here. I'm gonna talk about a comedy series that I think is very underrated. I don't know how you're gonna feel about this, because we literally have never talked about this series before ever. Austin Powers.
I enjoyed those movies.
Austin Powers is the same character every time.
Yeah,
Mike Myers
it's taking
plays,
a character and
yes,
putting them into
but there's always a different story. There's always wacky adventures to go on. He always has a new sidekick.
But you forget that Austin Powers is a parody of 007.
Exactly.
Oh my god, I just realized something.
Yes.
Austin Powers may have been one of the last good parody movies.
Yeah, I'd say that. I can't think of one right now. Speaking of parody movies, like we talked about one that did work because, again, there was a different environment every time. There was slightly different atmosphere, even though they stick to very quirky and goofy, and there were different characters in most of the movies. Now let's talk about a parody series that didn't work. Scary Movie.
Yeah, I mean the first one was good.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
very, very
The
good.
first is kind of, it's a classic without being a good movie. It's like, it's a movie
It took.
that's a classic.
What's the beauty of parody is that it's taking certain situations that the original characters from the original movies were in and being placed in certain completely different situations and saying, what if they did this instead? What if she roared? What if there was literal signs telling her to go left instead of right?
Now my question for you is, why didn't the sequels work, do you think?
I think
Because
that-
literally after Scary Movie 1, it just went downhill.
I think because more movies got more tone with making references to other movies instead of working on what was actually important and what
They
certain
focused-
geniuses like the master of parody. What is his name?
Oh, I hate you so much. The guy who did Spaceballs, Mel Brooks.
Mel Brooks, the parody genius. Mel Brooks perfected
Spaceballs. Go watch
Spaceballs, Young Frankenstein, all those movies.
Blazing Saddles. That's insanely racist, but I love it so much.
So
They focus. What the thing about the scary movies is the first movie was a good parody, in my opinion, that included a suffice amount of pop culture references.
because they thought, oh, pop culture references, that's funny.
And see, in the first one, it was fine because they also focused on why it's funny because of the story.
Yeah,
they also made the story different. They invested time into
it connected into the story.
And then, in the second ones, they were like, pop culture references, it's funny, guys, we pay attention to what happens. So we just had a little bit of a technical difficulties because we were literally talking so long that the camera ran out of memory space.
So,
Here are our concluding thoughts on sequels. Brandon, what do you think?
honestly, I think sequels are pretty much a good thing. Sequels are a good thing because either way, even if it is a cash grab, it's a second chance. It's a second way for a movie to basically say, don't screw this up again. And even some cash grabs can put out some good content, even if they're not meaning to.
Let's be honest, Toy Story 2 was kind of a cash grab.
Yeah, but it was a good cash grab.
Yeah, exactly.
So, that's my thoughts. Colin?
I think that sequels are also a good thing because you need to, you never know if you don't try, all that cheesy bullshit. I think that there can be good ones made even with minimal money put into it and stuff. Now, the question is I have for you to just end off the thing is, what advice do you give to movie execs out there to help sequels?
Hire good directors and hire good writers. If you're going to make a sequel, make it good.
And also, you need, again, the four things we talked about, try and add some new characters in there, make sure that the environment might be a little bit different or altered in a way, make sure that the atmosphere has a similar, because people do want to come back for some of the same sometimes, yet different feel, and then make sure that the story is not the exact same thing that you gave us in the first.
That's probably the most important thing. So, with that being said, that wraps up.
Yep.
That pretty much wraps up our Tuesday topics of sequels.
So now you know exactly what you're going to get from a Tuesday's topic. It's going to be like this. We're just going to sit down, talk to you. You can just do something, play some video games, do your homework, and just listen to us gab a little bit about something that we're very passionate about.
Right. So,
That's it for today. If you have any other topics for us, again, leave it in the description. Tomorrow's video, I don't know what we're going to do yet, but we'll figure it out. And that is about it. That's literally about it.
if you like our content, don't forget to subscribe and whatnot. If
Yep.
you like this video, don't forget to give it a like. Or hey, if you didn't like it, dislike it.
And if you dislike it, write a paragraph in the comments about why we're wrong.
And hey, if you guys have your own ideas for sequels, put them in the comments.
Yeah. If you have, alright, the challenge for you guys is if you have a good idea for a sequel that hasn't been made by Hollywood yet, put it in the comments.
Alright, with that being said, don't forget to be safe, you guys.
And don't forget to take a cab.